I'm a young adult leader and I want to invest in my community, I would say the thing you could do today is start one of the 90 coffees you should have and don't speak. Like let
Hmm.
people share whatever they want to share. Inevitably, things will be shared that you disagree with. Things will be shared that you agree with. Things will be shared that make you uncomfortable, and things will be shared that you make you proud. But just listen.
Welcome back to the Young Adults Today podcast. I'm Josiah Kennealy, and in just a moment, this is a big episode. We sit down with Peter Reeves. We talk about the number one thing that young adults are wanting and most are missing right now. And this conversation is honest, it's authentic, it's practical, and it just might change the way you lead and listen to the next generation. Before we jump in, be sure you hit subscribe wherever you're streaming. Thanks for being here. We're really glad to have you a part of today's conversation. And we're about to dive in. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, enjoy as we talk with Peter Reeves. Here we go. Peter Reeves, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for saying yes and taking some time.
Absolutely, man. It's good to be on the show. I appreciate you guys. Love what you're doing.
It's special, isn't it?
It is. It is. There's really not much for young adult leaders and directors and pastors, and so an intentional space to invest in those people. I want something I want to be a part of.
Man, and I just say thanks to the listener for the work that you're doing. You're plowing maybe new ground. You're built by God to break new ground, and it's going to be a season of pioneering. And also, like, there's a move of God. What if you look at this, like, what a time to be alive? We're recording this at the end of 2025, but we're all probably all eyes on 2026 and just
Yeah.
saying, Lord, let's go. Let's see that revival continue. And Peter, a fun place to start is your life, your journey. Would love to hear some of that.
Yeah, man. I been around. I've been in ministry for 12 years, and me and my wife were originally from Philly. Go Birds. We're originally from Philadelphia, and we always felt called to do ministry. Always felt called to be leaders in some capacity, and so we moved from Philadelphia to Michigan. We worked under a great leader who we were familiar with. He was my wife's youth pastor. We were the youth pastors at that church. We're there for 2.5 years, and then we went to another church in Lansing, Michigan, where we became the next gen pastors, kind of grew into our role there. And then from there, God opened up a lot of doors for us, fantastic doors that we walked through. And we decided to go full time itinerant minister. So we are evangelists through and through. And we also serve as the teaching pastor at a few different churches around the country and the multi site director at Faith Church in Orlando. So we are in full effect doing what God has called us to do. My wife runs our nonprofit. It's called Reeves Initiative, a focus on foster families. And we help foster families keep saying yes to foster care. We believe that they are, in fact, the unreached people group on our soil. So, yeah, that's what we do, man. A little bit about us.
It's amazing. You know what? There's so much there that we'll get to unpack
Yeah.
and dive into, but I want to drill down on a couple things, even going off script, but just like what was the journey like stepping into full-time itinerant evangelism ministry as an evangelist? What was that call like? Because I would imagine there's some leaders listening that feel that. Was it a fire in your belly? Was it, what was it?
Yeah, man. It's something I always sensed and felt, but had no direction, no blueprint on how to get where I feel like I was supposed to go. And so I made a decision early on that I was just going to be as ready as possible, so
Hmm.
meticulous preparation, and as healthy as possible, so that if the opportunity ever came for me to step into a season like that, I would be ready. And I'm thankful that the meticulous preparation and that the health of my family, but also just my the way I was working, when the opportunities started to flow and the doors began to open, I was able to say yes and kind of flow with it. So I wish I could say I was more strategic or something like that, but I really just kept saying yes to the doors that were opening and serving the people in front of me and trying to add value wherever I could.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What did unprepared look like for you? And what were maybe one or two of the things that you did? Was it soul care? Was it inner life? What was it that maybe all of a sudden you felt there could be something changing? And what did ready look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, unprepared for me looked like I kept dreaming about what the moment would feel like, right?
Mm,
Like I kept dreaming about how I would like who I would meet or what that moment would sense or how I could I don't know, just impact the people in the moment that might come. And then ready for me, prepared for me look like I was writing like I was speaking tomorrow. You know what I mean?
mm,
Like I was
yep.
writing there would be people in the room I've never met before. There were people in the room that I knew. I was practicing the transitions and I mean I knew what I was going to say through and through. Like you know when you're prepared and when you're like, man, I know this material so well. And I think the crazy thing for most people is that they don't prepare to the opportunities in front of them. And for some reason, I felt like it was a green light for me. I was very well prepared before the opportunity ever came, and I didn't have to freak out when it was there, you know? So,
That is beautiful.
yeah.
Our pastor is really passionate about being a future ready leader to, you know, understand the times, to know what to do, but on a personal level. I love what you just shared of for the leader, like listening. Are you in a season where you're prepared should the opportunity knock and a door opens? And I think, would you say you'd rather be prepared for an opportunity that never came than unprepared for something that did?
100%, man. And I'll say this, I believe, bro, that success happens when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah,
They are going to meet. It might be today, it might be 10 years from now. But when it does happen, I believe that's where success is found. And like for me, I'm not, and I've learned this obviously over the years, like um, that it's really about the people that I'm going to serve
totally.
that keeps me so motivated to be prepared. Like someone took off work for this, or someone decided to not do something to be wherever I am. So I'm just going to make sure that to the best of my ability I encourage them, inspire them, challenge them, whatever necessary. So,
It was probably a decade ago, Peter, but I heard a pastor named Gary Northup. I think he was in Colorado, and he just, other people have said this, but he was the first person that I would attribute hearing this from. But he said every room he walks into, he goes, "There you are," versus "Here I am."
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Bro, I have been so just obsessed, I guess, with past me. Um I wish past me and future me like could have had a conversation. And that's like why I wrote my book. Like my
Yeah.
latest book, The Influence Effect, is a is an attempt to encourage, inspire, but ultimately teach past me.
Yep.
You know, the leader that senses there's more in them
Yep.
than the opportunity in front of them. The
Yep.
leader that's trying to figure out the how of building what God's called them to build, the how of expanding their influence, the how of being a great leader. The leader that's frustrated that they see everyone else excelling in areas and arenas they wish they could be in. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so for me, I just I'm passionate about helping those people realize that you don't have to wait until something comes. There's something right now you could be working on. There's something in the middle of the season you're in that will potentially lead to where you're going, and you have to apply yourself now. And I'm passionate about helping people find those clues in the season they're in. And I just believe there's something great there.
For sure. If you could have, let's go there. If you could have a conversation today with past you, what were one or two of the most important things that you wish you could have deposited earlier on?
Yeah. I wish number one I could have told past me. Um, to move forward, you must create enemies. Now, when I say enemies, I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about obstacles and challenges. As a people, whether it's youth pastors, young adults pastors, church congregates, this denomination, that whatever, we must find a common enemy that we can rally around. And so I would tell myself like, hey, you need to find some enemies that are attacking people at large, people that you want to speak to. So if it's the CEO, they might be experiencing the enemy might be leadership development. They know how to develop themselves, but they don't know how to develop their team, or vice versa. They know how to develop their team, but they themselves aren't being developed, and you can't take people to a place that you've never been. If it's the leader, it might be, man, they know how to get people in a room, but they don't know how to keep people in the room. And the front door is wide open, back door is not. And so that is an enemy you must create. It might be, they're growing too fast and they don't know how to steward what. Anyway, you got to create an enemy. And so
Yep.
I feel like a lot of people make people their enemies and they
Mm,
waste a lot of time there, but it's not. Like the enemy's not the person, it's whatever challenge you're trying to attack together. Every person on any team can create an enemy that they rally around. If it's poor performance, right? That can be an enemy. If it's the team not being able to communicate, that's an enemy. Anything. So that's the first thing I would tell myself. Focus yourself on being ready to fight the enemies. That you must create. And then the second thing is don't see things as they are or just as they are, see them as they should be. It is really valuable to be able to see things as they are because then you can get a realistic picture of where things need to go. But especially in the day we live, visionary leadership leads the way.
so
So
good.
don't just see things as they are, see them as
Yeah.
they should be. I mean, I
Yep.
want to walk into a meeting and go, what should this meeting actually be? Is this as effective as it can be? I want to walk into a service. I want to walk into a student-led small group, a leader-led small group. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. Every moment I walk into, I go, man, is this what it could be? I want to walk into spaces. I mean, I do this at my house all the time. My wife goes crazy. We'll develop a space, and then I'm like, oh, could it be like this though? Right? Like, I just want to live on that edge where I'm a future-ready leader. I'm thinking not just about what it is, management, but what it could be, leadership.
Bro, that's so good. What about this? As somebody who I think there's such an importance in the local church that I've found in my own life, the importance of being under a covering, the importance of just having accountability. You're rooted and you're a part of a local church. And also, you're out there in the kingdom adding value as a traveling evangelist, that it might be at a camp, it might be at a conference, it might be on a college campus or a church. And we, with young adults today, I've just noticed that for us, having a prayer team, having a board, having a pastor, and being rooted in a local church, it has meant and made all the difference in the world to me. But I'm curious, have you found that to be the same? If so, why?
Yeah, I mean, dude, I would say this, like accountability serves like bumpers when you're bowling. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it doesn't always look cool and it doesn't always feel cool. I mean, I've been bowling a bunch of times. I'm sure you probably have. But when those bumpers are up, you're gonna hit pins, which is the goal of the game. And so I think sometimes in life, just like in bowling, like it doesn't always look the greatest. It doesn't always feel the greatest. If someone's really keeping you accountable, sometimes it's uncomfortable. But that has served me so well. I just have a great board, great friendship, great leaders around me that when we talk, they're sharing what they're working on, and that in itself is accountability for me.
Hmm.
To say, wow, look at how you're stewarding your people. Look at how you're building what God's called you to build. They don't have to even tell me, Peter, you should be XYZ. I'm like, whoa, like just by hearing how inspired you are to do what God's called you to do, that serves as accountability for me. That piece brings so much life, and I don't know. I'm just a huge fan of it. I'm a huge fan.
I think it was Spurgeon. He called it his boiler room or the engine, that when he was preaching the gospel in the local church from the pulpit, I think it was underneath the platform or the stage, there was a room where he called it the boiler room, where they prayed.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
was
yeah,
intercessors gathered. And I drive this at the moment Ford F-150, and it's this truck, and the people who are really Ford F-150 people, they call it the Coyote engine. It's like
yeah.
this 5.0 V8 engine, but they call it the Coyote. And I'm in the time of the year where it's kind of year end, and we lead a nonprofit. We're also rooted in a local church. And for us, we just gathered with our prayer team, board, ministry partners, and some of them maybe are listening to this podcast that couldn't be there. But my message to you would be thank you, because there's an engine of prayer, of intercession, and support, both from a local church, but also from the young adults today side. And I just think it's made such a difference to know that we're not alone, that there's intercessors, that there's people joining their faith with ours. And that's a beautiful thing. One of the things that, Peter, we ask every leader that's on this show, probably about 350 episodes now. We ask every leader why they believe young adult ministry is vital. In a second, I'm going to ask you that. What would you say to that question? Why is young adult ministry, discipling 18 to 30-year-olds, why is that so important?
Yeah. Well, let me start and say, it's so vital because these were the people and the demographic, the age group that Jesus chose to make his disciples. Like he knew that if he was going to impact the world, which was inevitable, that he needed a group of young men and then supporting cast of people in general that all fit the age demographic that we're speaking about, young adult ministry. To think about the future of the church without young adults being present is preposterous because young adults carry the culture, and those who carry the culture have the ability to change the culture. Young adult ministry is so important because it allows us to help. It allows us to take students out of what can God do for me into what does it look like to build the kingdom. That dance is really that little gap between, as we're teaching students about the things of God to becoming an adult. It becomes there's a lot of, I mean, you would know, a lot of different just philosophy and teaching and things that they need to navigate. And so we need a young adult ministry so that we can help them realize, like, okay, now you're making this shift. This was all about what God can do for you. Now this is all about what you can do for God. And I don't know. That's why I think it's important. We need that communication in the future of discipleship, and the future disciples that are coming.
My
That shift.
daughters, oh my gosh, dead on the money. Everything you just said. My daughters, they're 4 and 5. We have a 4 month old, so she hasn't participated in this activity yet. She will in the future. But in Minnesota, there's 4 distinct seasons, and my daughters love the spring. And we'll go to like Gerton's or a Home Depot, or we'll get potting soil in these little pots. We'll get some of those packets of whatever plants or flowers that they want to grow, and we'll
Yeah,
plant them inside still. It's still cold outside, and they'll water it every day. It's their job, it's their nurturing, it's their responsibility. And
powerful.
then we have a kind of a east side of the home right over there where there's light that can come through the window, and then they'll actually move it once a day to the in the afternoon to where it can catch maybe the sunset too. And I picture young adults, Peter, as sprouts. So many people right now are buying Bibles and they're trying to learn and discern what is the voice of God? What does it mean right now? And so many
Yeah,
young adults have had faith sprout up that, hey, maybe they grew up in church, maybe they didn't, but in this season of the life, there's like a new seed that's germinating, a new sprout that's being planted. And I just think that photosynthesis scientifically shows us a lot. And Jesus told the same story that there was, trees that were planted, or plants that were planted along rocky soil, some on the path, some in tough soil, and some in good soil.
yeah,
And so the seed is powerful, but the soil it's planted in makes all the difference. And I think we, as shepherds, pastors, evangelists, teachers, prophets, apostles, whatever, I think we have the opportunity to cultivate shade for a generation, but also spots where sunlight, photosynthesis can happen. Because I think that it's really make it or break it. The way I see it is that this is an opportunity. Like, we traveled for a week and the plants started to wilt. And we were like, uh-oh, I feel like I failed my kids. It wasn't their fault. It was my fault that we didn't water them. They didn't get sunlight. And then it's like, you know what? There's some grace, there's some mercy, there's some tending to the soil that we can do. And I just view the incubation period almost a greenhouse. I would call a college ministry almost a greenhouse, an internship program or a young adult movement almost a greenhouse where roots can grow, where mentorship can happen, where discipleship, leadership. But when you said what you said a second ago, that's where my mind went, was the picture of
yeah.
what a season of life, what an opportunity that we all had if a pastor was listening today and they asked you what's one thing I could do this week to really engage young adults in this community, what would one thing that they could do almost immediately to engage young adults in their church community, or even outside their church and community?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to young adults ministry, I want to create spaces where questions can be asked and
Yes.
responses, not necessarily answers,
Huh.
but responses can be given. If somebody told me today, I'm a young adult leader and I want to invest in my community, I would say the thing you could do today is start one of the 90 coffees you should have and don't speak. Like let
Hmm.
people share whatever they want to share. Inevitably, things will be shared that you disagree with. Things will be shared that you agree with. Things will be shared that make you uncomfortable, and things will be shared that you make you proud. But just listen. Um, to be able to create a space where people can process the things that they're really thinking about in the faith, I think is the number one thing anybody could do. And so you don't have to do that for a room of 200. You could do that for one. That could happen today. But I will say this, in young adult ministry, quickly what seems like the minority becomes the majority. And what I mean by that is like it's maybe one person with questions about relationships and marriage, and then you start to dive into it and you realize, oh, we all have this question.
Yeah, they all
So you
have the
thought it was
same
the
exact
yeah,
question.
you thought it was the minority, but it's really the majority of people that have
That's
the
good.
same thing. And so also I would say this. A lot of times when it comes to young adult ministry, I tell leaders, and I really believe this to be true, we're answering questions that young adults aren't asking.
Mm.
So like we're telling them about different things that we think are necessary, and they might be so vital and so important to the season they're in, and we know that because we're on the other side of it, but they're not asking it. One of the most useless things you could do is answer a question that no one is asking. And so, with this approach of listening, it really gives the leader a time to develop content and questions that they're actually asking, and then being able to put material out not just on whenever the service day is, but throughout the week to help them engage in questions that they're genuinely asking. That to me is like one of the crux of maybe that's not the fastest way to grow your ministry, but to engage your ministry, oh, we're cooking.
Beautiful. What would, if you can drill down on that a little bit, what would be maybe a couple things that you find in your sphere of influence that maybe young adults are not asking? One or two questions, and then what are maybe one or two of the top things that they are asking that you've found?
Yeah, man. Okay, so just speaking, I can think of two individuals in my mind. Again, the minority becomes the majority. Like we try to do a really good job of like helping young adults get set up financially for the future. Because we know, okay, that's super important. And if we could teach people now, what an advantage they will have as a young adult. But they're not really asking questions about how to steward their money. They're asking questions about how to make more money. They're asking questions about how to spend their money. And so for us, it's like we're talking about the future of, and they're like, well, what do I do with it now? Does that make sense? Or just like we're giving them insight into what it might like look like to be a mom or a dad because we know we're preparing them for that. Like, here's what I feel like, and really both of my questions, some of the stuff is like we're in prepare mode. We want to prepare them and equip them, and that makes sense. That's what leaders do. But they're not thinking about the equip or the prepare of. They're thinking of the right now.
When I go home,
Um,
like tomorrow
yeah,
morning
like
or
like
tonight.
right now, I haven't talked to my mom in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? This is the first time this has ever happened in our relationship. I'm not talking about me, but like a young adult.
Right.
Right now, the friends that I was hanging out with, I'm starting to get more serious convictions, and now I can't hang out with them. Right now, I'm working this job and I see absolutely no purpose. And honestly, I'm realizing that even their values don't coincide with mine, but I feel like God told me to work here. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just so different from like we're trying to get them prepared for it and they're in the middle of right now. So that's what I see. I'm not saying that's everybody's story, but that is a lot of stories. It's like we have a play, let's run the play. We're going to help people find Jesus. And it's like, um, yes, that works. We have a play, we run the play. But Jesus also met people where they were. There were specific situations in which he found himself in, and that minority situation became impact for the majority. Like Jairus in the Bible, Jairus or Jairus, however you say
Yeah.
his name.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that guy in the Bible who is like, Lord, I need your help with this situation. Well, that becomes something that is inspiring for everyone. So yeah.
Man, I'm reminded of, questions that we get asked a lot. And what I realized, Peter, there's so much what you said a second ago is so profound that one thing that you could do this week is go have coffee and listen and actively listen. Ask, I think it was Les Parrott said the most important question is the follow-up question. Like it
Yeah.
shows that you're actually caring, it shows that you're actually asking.
Listening. Yeah.
Or yeah, actually listening like you are, and I think that the importance of one caring adult, if Barna Group's research is accurate about Gen Z, two-thirds of Gen Z does not have a caring adult in their life. And what I've seen even this week, Peter, I was on a college campus and we taught on relationships. It was their assignment to us, my wife and I, and we did Q&A after, and there was a line of gals to talk to my wife, there was a line of guys to talk to me. And what I realized, the common theme is most of the students just had no one to process this with. Whether they're away from their parents for the first time, whether they've never saw love or a Christian relationship in their home, and so
Yeah.
or they're just starting to make adult decisions, and they're like, "Who do I talk to about this?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
Wow.
it troubles me the idea that if we are presenting, whether it's sermons, messages, content, essentially answering questions that people aren't asking. And every Friday we do a show separate from this one where from a college campus conference, or just the mouth of a young adult, what questions are they actually answering? And then we don't have all the answers, but we can journey with them, point them back to scripture, the heart of Christ. Um, that's beautiful, Peter. What about this? As far as churches and Gen Z, so many young men are returning to faith, so many young adult ministries are launching right now. But from your perspective, first of all, have you found that to be the case in your travels? You can go there
Yeah.
for a second.
Oh, yeah, yeah, 100%. Oh man, like it's like this generation has tasted the best quality water they've ever tasted, and they've gotten over the hump of being afraid to talk about it. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of Gen Zers and even Gen Alpha like streaming back to the Lord. Yeah.
What do you think that the one of the most important things that every church needs to understand about Gen Z, or you could go Gen Alpha, because right now the young adult ministries are filled with Gen Z, but 2 to 3 years, Gen Alpha is going to get there, and
Yeah.
we don't want to be behind that. We could be ahead of it and future ready.
Yeah. I would say you have to help young people contextualize the gospel in the flow of their daily life. Contextualize the gospel in the flow of their daily life. What I mean by that is like I do this message right now that I've been preaching everywhere I can called fixed focus, and it's about really I wrote the message because I realized most young people who are Christian or saved or call themselves a believer, they don't know what to focus on. The Bible's filled with 31,102 verses in the Bible, and so to really navigate central themes and figure out what we're called to focus on is difficult for a lot of Christians, which is why we see an uptick, like boom, 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 right now in youth ministry, and why just historically in the patterns we see a dip when it goes into young adults ministries because we haven't taught people what to focus on, how to contextualize what Jesus has said for their day-to-day life. And so the message fixed focus is about uh, lack of ability to be able to focus in the distractions that I think are detrimental to believers. I think distraction, uh, I would put it in the same category as sin. That's how volatile it is against someone's spiritual life. And so the message is about the four things that the Bible speaks about the most. The word believe, right, is it's in there like 274 times. The word pray, which is in there like 371 times. The word the word love, which is in there like 774 times, and then the word give, which is in there 2,162 times. So it's like teaching them, like, okay, Jesus came talking about these things. There's all these stories in the Bible, all the way from Abraham to the Apostle John and this. But here are the four things the Bible speaks about the most, and frequency should determine your focus. So, like
Mm,
teaching them, like this, all of these things we're talking about, like healing. This is what Jesus can do. This is how it fits into your daily life. Salvation and sanctification. This is what Jesus did for you. This is now what you have access to. This is how it fits in your daily life. That is what I think young adult ministries need to be doing.
that is
Con-
powerful.
Contextualizing the gospel for people's daily lives. And I think starting to do a decent job at it, which is why Gen Z and Gen Alpha are like, oh my goodness, I need Jesus on Tuesday, not just on Sunday, because
Hmm.
we're doing a good job at, I know people think it's cheesy and it's crazy, but like, one of the things someone just told me is like everyone's posting sermon clips, like post other content, and and I thought to myself, yeah, but like I know several students who sent me a video of a preacher or a speaker, known or unknown, and be like, this really spoke to me. This made me pray. This made me have a conversation with my mom. This made me ask. So it's like we're getting it like right in front of their space and they're responding to it. It might not get the engagement we want, but it might be helping them have the encounter they need. So,
Wow. Wow. Going back to your journey and your story, when did foster care intersect your life, or when did you become passionate, you and your wife, about mobilizing the church to be the church?
yeah, we were in college and we had a professor. I can't remember her name, but I remember what she said. Me and my wife were in the class and we were talking about discipleship and making disciples and building church communities that raise disciples. And she said this phrase. She said, "The best way to make disciples is to raise disciples." And I was like, oh, whoa. And she was obviously talking about your children. And now
Yeah.
her and her husband had three foster kids. And it was kind of just evident to us like the 400,000 foster kids in the system at any given time. Um, and they really don't have a lot of people investing into them that way. And so me and my wife became foster parents in Michigan, and we saw the
Wow.
behind the scenes of what that was like
Wow.
and what they were exposed to, and the opportunity to expose our foster kids, but also that whole family to Jesus. And we just realized that this is a vehicle for transformation that God has aided us with. And if someone would give it a little bit of focus, there could be a lot of generational life change that takes place. So yeah, we're trucking along, man. We're building. Our goal is to help 50,000 families over the next 10 years say yes to foster care.
Hmm.
And the ones that are already saying yes, we would like to keep their continual yes going.
Hmm.
But they need support. And so that's what we
Hmm.
do. There's no red tape. As long as they're connected to a church and they have a pastor that can vouch for them, we are happy to help them with whatever they need to make sure that they're ready to receive children, that they're children to take care of.
That is powerful. And I agree with what your professor said, that the best way to make disciples is to raise disciples. We were at a dinner with Dr. George Barna maybe a year and change ago, and there was a presenter who got up and shared that maybe 30 years ago, Lilly Endowment funded kind of a children's discipleship focus, and they started putting out Sunday school curriculum. And while there was the grant available, it was like, and there's just been this pendulum swing, like the church is responsible for the discipleship of my child. And then after a while, the endowment ran out. And so then the same group was like, well, the parents are responsible for the discipleship of the child. And it's gone back and forth. And I think it really is both. Like the church can definitely aid and empower and provide support and resources for parents, for foster parents,
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, it is going to be those who raise the children that are the primary disciple makers of their children. Parents, foster parents, what an opportunity. George Barna said that uh, whoever in a race to a child's heart, whoever gets there first wins.
I love it.
That's what you're doing.
That's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
And that's what the listener is doing in their own home. If somebody's feeling that tug to explore foster care, that's what this is about, is the race to the heart of a child. And
100%. And especially for where we are today as people who are like we're like, oh yeah, like we're Christians. We believe that God is the author and the finisher
Mhm.
of our faith and our life. So we're pro-life. And it's like I'm also pro open up your home, bro.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean? It's like open up your home because there are kids that are desperate for someone to invest in them. And we have the opportunity to be those people, the hands and the feet of Jesus. We think Jesus is not joking when he said, take care of the orphan and the widow. We think that's legitimately
Oh yeah.
serious. And he spoke
Oh
that
yeah.
through James.
Yeah.
And so I just, to me, bro, it's like we talk about unreached people groups, 7,000 in the world. We have one here right amongst us. It's called foster care. 400,000 kids in the system.
We can cut this out if you don't feel comfortable. You don't need to share a name or even a state or anything, but is there a story for you that how God has used maybe a foster family or parents to impact the life of a young person?
Oh my goodness, dude, there is so many. Like, we have an older couple here at our church in Florida who said yes to foster care. Their story is really remarkable because they're in the closing journey of their life. They're in their
Mm,
70s,
wow.
and where they should be resting and relaxing and enjoying the fruits of their labor. The Lord captured their heart, and they realized they needed to open up their home for foster children. They received a small baby, and then they got a younger boy who was nonverbal, about 7 years old, autistic, and then his sister. And through them loving the baby, the boy and the girl, and both of those families, because the baby was its own family, and then the boy and the girl was its own family, both of those families have now come to Christ because of the care of a couple that should have been relaxing, but instead decided to be on mission. And this is not like a story that's like off in the distance. We see that family at church every week, knowing that the that their invitation to their salvation was through a foster family. Just it's not just about the kids, a majority of it is about the kids, but it's about the whole family and the opportunity to see that come to play. One of the craziest stories I had was about 3 years ago. I was preaching at a camp, and every event that I do, I often try to have a moment where I get to speak and hang out with just foster students. Want to bless them with stuff, do giveaways, help make sure
Wow.
they're good.
Wow.
And I was in Oklahoma, and I did just that. I threw an ice cream party for all the foster kids that were there at this event. And I met this kid, and I won't say his name, obviously, for privacy's sake, but he told me, he said, hey, like, I don't come to church, and I'm here, and somebody paid for me to go. And I was like, that was us. We paid for you to be there. And he said, dude, God is real. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, like, and I mean, a story like this is not uncommon. It's
Mhm.
crazy, but it's not uncommon. He said, my mom was murdered, and that's why I'm in foster care. And I know of the people who did it because our town is so small and people talk. And he said, my whole life, I've just been like plotting and like, like one day they're going to get what they deserve and all these things. And then he goes, and tonight I just forgave him. He's like, God forgave me. I realized because anybody can only repent because of the Holy Spirit. So he said, God helped me realize like how sinful I am and how I do wrong things. And he goes, like, I was just able to forgive the people. And like I know that like God's gonna use me. Anyway, long story short, that young man is now in Bible college and pursuing the things of God. And it's like, how do you go from a story where the Genesis is murder and the ending is a minister, a man of God?
What would you say the answer that question that you just asked? How do you go from
Yes,
how do you go from the Genesis murder story to on his way to track and become
dude,
responding to the call of God as a minister?
a foster family who decided that they were going to allow their lives to be inconvenienced, who cared more about what this young man was processing than the answers that they had for his life. And they were able to lead him in a way that, yeah, man.
It's a important conversation to have. I just recognize, Peter, with what influence God has given our family, our ministry, when we can advocate for the least of these or give people an opportunity to reflect and to respond of where does this impact their life and
Yeah,
how do we live lives that when you tell both of those stories, I'm reminded of Lydia from Thyatira who heard the gospel and she opened up her home immediately. Heard the gospel and her response was like radical hospitality. And when you study the global church, I think we could learn a thing or two perhaps from our brothers and sisters in other cultures that are a little bit more hospitable, a little bit longer meals, a little bit more unhurried lives.
yeah,
And for us to all have the response of what does it look like to open up a meal, our a holiday, our homes,
yeah,
or our world to foster care. Any other thoughts on if somebody's feeling that nudge, a next step for them?
yeah. Um, when it's to start anything like that, the journey of foster care, the first thing that comes to mind, it might be funny, but it's like when Jesus goes, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, because there is a process that most states have,
Yep.
a system they've set
Right.
up.
Yep.
And to impact sometimes to impact where you are, you just got to give to Caesar what is Caesar's. And so you got to go through the process of their training and their development, which I love. I think if you want to be influential in your city or you're like, man, I want to make an impact in foster care, it's like go through the process, meet the people who are at the top of that process and who are
Yeah.
developing and training. So go through the process and then begin to partner with your church. I mean, the ecosystem of the family of God is the best place for foster families to get the support they need to continue saying yes and to keep going. But yeah, I would say that go to your church, go through the system first and the processes of your county, but then also connect with your church. I think every church in the country needs a foster care ministry. And what I mean by that is not one that it takes care of kids, but it takes care of families that take care of
Mm,
kids
mm,
and families are supported. We have one here at our church where we provide meals for families, where we do respite care for families,
yeah.
parents night out, that kind of
Yep.
vibe. Like that, if you want people to say yes, they need support. So those would be my first two steps.
Oh my goodness. We have, I think, a mutual friend who heard you speak at a local church in our state. And this is a young couple and a young family. And they're like, hey, we're gonna stop or we're gonna start. We're gonna take the next step of applying to become a foster family.
So awesome.
And that's so beautiful, man. I just commend them and commend you and just whatever God is putting on the heart of somebody listening. I don't know, but I think
Yeah.
it's to provide a place where they can reflect and process. And Peter, how we usually close the episode is five final thoughts. We call it the 5 and 5 rapid fire, 5 questions. Are you up for that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, first question. What is one question that nobody's asked you yet, but you wish that somebody would ask you?
Yeah. Um, what is valuable to you now? Uh, or what did you think was valuable 10 years ago that is not valuable now?
Can you go and go there for a second?
Yeah, I mean, dude, I thought 10 years ago that it was so valuable um to express your gifting and like show off what you can do and impress people. Um, and I just thought that that was so valuable to exude confidence. And now today I realize that really what attracts people to any individual, what allows you to build influence is authenticity, to be the most authentic version of yourself, which I wouldn't have said 10 years ago. I would have said, hey, hide your weaknesses, maximize your strengths, draw everybody to your gift. Like that's the way to do this thing. And it's just people are looking for real and authentic. That's what I would say.
You just wrote a book. We'll link to it in the show notes, but the influence effect, you touched on it
Yeah.
earlier, but share with us and the listener the message of influence effect.
Yeah. The message of the influence effect is that wherever God has placed you, He's put you there for a reason. And He's called you to influence and impact exactly where He's placed you. to search for what's next without being thankful and reveling and and managing well where he's placed you is crazy. The book is about learning how to um, tame ambition and engage just your community, your opportunity. So the book's written from a mentor perspective. Questions fill the book, stories, biblical principles to help weave together 30 vital lessons, I believe, that can help someone become the influential person they want to be.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
If you could become the host of the Young Adults Today podcast, usually it's Micah and I. She's not here at the moment. So you get to ask me a question. You can ask anything. I never know what is going to come. It keeps me engaged on my toes a little bit. What's one question you'd want to find out today?
Yeah. I guess the question would be, um, how do how do we build how do we build spaces in our ministries and in our communities where young adults have the opportunity, but they also have to earn the opportunity. Does that
Mm,
make sense?
it
Like
does.
we're not just giving them the opportunity. How do we build spaces for people that are um, uh, not qualified? They just, I don't know. I don't know how I want to ask this question. How do we build a space where young people are not just given opportunity, but we allow them to grow into opportunities in church and in our communities? Does that make sense?
100% in my life, there was a youth pastor, Brent Silky, and he
I know
always,
Brent.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The guy's amazing. Best friend to this day. At the time we're recording, he just finished the Abu Dhabi marathon, running 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days to fight human trafficking and raise funds and awareness. Guy's amazing, an inspiration. And during like my senior year of high school, he had me lead a small group discussion that I was unqualified for. But I had
Yeah,
seen
that's what
him
I'm
do it.
asking.
I had seen him do it. And then he's like, "You're up." After that, he's like, "Hey, you're going to be our student speaker and preach the gospel." And it was horrible. I wish I could have, if I could have had a
Wow.
mulligan for any message, it was a large youth group. All the high school students were there. But I think my heart, like it was actually where I was gonna go in another direction of business, and God
Yeah.
used that experience to redirect and call me into ministry or see that it was a possibility. And so I think one of the things that I'm quick to do, Peter, is to dispense and to dispatch ministry in a sense of doing ministry not for young adults or to young adults, but with and alongside young adults. And so if you visit a
Mm.
First Tuesday at Emmanuel, what you're going to see is the people welcoming our ELC students, they're young adults. The people who are even sometimes preaching or leading small groups, they're given reps and an opportunity, and then we'll evaluate those opportunities and
Wonderful.
and share just maybe encouragement or guidance. But I in my life, I look back on a Pastor Jerry Stranquist's giving me a shot in ministry before I was qualified. I'm eternally indebted and grateful. And I think that for me, I would always rather, I know there's instruction from Paul, like not to lay hands too quickly on somebody. But I'm going to use wisdom, but also,
Mm.
I don't even know if I'm ready for some of the things that at 34, God's put on my plate.
Yeah, for sure. For
And
sure.
so it's like, where are the greenhouses? I would say to the listener, I think one of the visuals that I get is like, let's provide even places where it's not just a board talking about young adults, but there's a visitor or our home church that I grew up in, two of the board members are actually young adults at that church.
It's
You know,
awesome.
I think to give them not just even a seat to watch at the table, but a say at the table. Um, and
It's
then
great.
Carrie Newhoff says to when you're having conversations about the next generation, include them. I would, I'd be passionate about that.
Yeah, it's great.
Back to you. Question 4 of 5. How do you overcome discouragement?
Yeah. Yeah. One of my key things for my own life, this is like my own personal goal, is to be the most thankful person on the planet.
Wow.
Like I just always like try to live in that space. Thanksgiving absolutely destroys discouragement because
Whoa.
Thanksgiving reminds you
Yeah.
of what you have
Wow.
and what you've been given. And it's hard to be discouraged and thankful at the same time. I actually don't know anybody that can do that. And so I try to live in that place, that Philippians 4, whatever's pure, lovely, admirable, praiseworthy, that kind of verse, like think on these things. Like I try to live there, man. And it's so easy to be discouraged. Most of the time because of the culture we live in, everyone's comparing. We know comparison is the thief of joy. And so I try not to do that. It's hard I always tell my friends it's like hard to make me jealous because I'm so happy for you, like that kind of vibe. I just want to be thankful, man, and yeah, live in that space where everything is a gift, and if everything is a gift, even if I don't like it, I'm receiving it freely, and so I don't know. That's how I do it.
Hmm. Anything else? A last challenge or thought or word of encouragement for young adult ministry leaders?
Yeah. Um, don't don't get over where you are too quickly. Don't get over where you are too quickly. Um, cherish that. I mean, that would be my last word of encouragement. Just cherish the season you're in. Cherish where God is giving you. Water what's right in front of you. It is so disheartening to see people move on too quickly from something that could have been special, something that could have been remarkable. I was reminded recently of my trip to Israel. I was in Israel a couple years ago, and I was standing in a ruin that the scholars that we were with estimate took somewhere between 4 and 5 generations to build. And that shook me because I realized that the people who started the project knew that they would never sit in it, but they started anyway. They cherished what was right in front of them, even though it wouldn't be of immediate benefit to them. And I think we got to play the long game. I think we have to play the I'm content where I am game. I'm really thankful. And we'll see what God will do on the other side of us being content, faithful, cherishing what's right in front of us. It will be remarkable.
That is a whole word. I'm reading a book by Mark Batterson, a favorite author of mine. It's called Gradually, Then Suddenly. And he riffs off the whole premise, the metaphor that he uses to his organizing metaphor is just the idea of somebody asked a person hundreds of years ago, how did you go bankrupt? And he goes, well, two ways. It was gradually and then it was suddenly. And he
Mm,
realized that the same way that you get in debt is the same way you get out of debt. The same way you get in shape is the same way you get overweight. Like it's gradually and then it's suddenly. And when you talked about the 4 generations, we live in Minnesota. I do, my family and I. We see monarch butterflies this time of year. And so he writes about monarch butterflies, and I'm mesmerized by this story. I didn't know. I know they migrate to like Mexico to that part of the country, but it actually takes 4 generations of monarch butterflies. They only last like 6 weeks, their life. And so generation one goes from, say, Minnesota to Iowa, and it takes a 6 week journey. They plant a seed, have a new monarch butterfly, that caterpillar, cocoon, chrysalis, butterfly. Gen two, maybe they get the second leg of the journey. The third generation might get to, say, Texas. And then the fourth generation is called a super generation. It actually lasts like, don't quote me, it might be 8 months instead of 6 to 8 weeks. But there's super generations. And so the vision for the work that we're doing isn't just trees. It's seen to come back to something you said, things that are not yet as though they are. And so it's to
mhm.
see that we're planting seeds that will be future forests. That's the encouragement for the leader today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Peter, so good, man. Thanks for your time today.
Appreciate you, bro. This has been great. You're doing a great work.
Let's go. This is the Young Adults Today podcast. What a great conversation. Super glad you're here. While you're here, there's one more invite that we have, and it's for you if you're leading the next generation, if you're passionate about the next generation, if you've maybe ever wanted to learn more about reaching young adults for Christ. This January 21st, we have our free digital conference. You'll hear from my wife, Mike, and I. You'll hear from some of the leading young adult ministry leaders and pastors from across North America. And we'd love to have you join it. Space is limited, space is free. Be sure that you check the link in the show notes as you visit youngadults.today/digital-conference. The link is in the show notes with all the details. Be sure you sign up